Hey RV family, keep it tight. My name is J Morris, the review guy reviewing music for the love of music, and I'm back again to bring you another video. Welcome to a brand new installment in my ongoing series, Worst to Best Albums, where I rank the discography of any given band or artist, and in this one I'm talking about one of my absolute all-time favorite bands, one that I've been wanting to dive into the discography of for a while, and that is Cattle Decapitation. One of the most well-respected, long-running Deathgrind bands in the scene, Cattle Decapitation has done so much artistic changing over the years. This environmentally conscious, vegan-centric band that tackles topical elements about humanity. They have a lot of misanthropy, a lot of rage. For this list, I'm not going to be including releases like Human Jerky or Medium Rarities, as those aren't necessarily studio-length albums. The only records that I'm going to be talking about are the studio-length albums, so no 10 Torments of the Damned, no Human Jerky, no Medium Rarities, none of that. With that being said, what is your favorite Cattle Decapitation release? And if you have heard their discography, or even if you haven't heard the entire discography, what would your rankings be? I would definitely love to know it, because in general, this series is just to give my subjective opinions and hear what you guys think about a band or artist discography. So be sure to let me know in the comment section below what your favorite release from this band is and why. Can't wait to hear what you guys think. Let's get right into it. Coming in at number 8, we have their debut studio-length album, Humanure. On their debut record, Cattle Decapitation was admittedly nothing too special. Their sound was still in a great deal of development. Travis Ryan's vocals did have the signature rasp, but especially on the lows, they really did have that gore grind twist that came from their early days. But presentation-wise, Humanure still remains to be there. But Humanure is still their least lyrically clever, most musically rudimentary, and lackluster release. In the band's infancy, the gritty ferocity that would later become a namesake of their sound didn't sound nearly as organic, in my opinion. It really does attempt to feel gross, but fails to push the narrative of said grossness. They were finding themselves at a crossroads if they wanted to be a deathgrind band, a grindcore band, a gore grind band, and I wouldn't necessarily say that they lacked identity so much as they didn't feel nearly as comfortable in their own skin as they would on later releases. The layering of many vocals being off time, I understand intentionally, but still being weird. The bass being practically non-existent. The lack of cohesion, lack of memorability. It sticks out like a damn sore thumb in their discography as the weakest. Next up, jumping to their 2004 record, we have Humanure. I know in the underbelly of Cattle Decapitation fans that Humanure often gets quite a bit of praise, gets ranked decently high, but in my opinion, I think this has the worst production of any Cattle Decapitation record. They really do sell themselves short with the complete lack of auditory density. They opt for this rumble that luckily has been lost through time. Bottom line, primal as many of the compositions on Humanure feel, and while the lyricism is still a lot more punchy than it was on their prior two releases, this record, in my opinion, is undermined by the sheer muddiness of the sound. The extremity and happy medium of the layers that would later become a really satisfying piece of their sound was definitely in its early days here. And certainly it sounds pretty good, but it just remains to be one of the most confusing releases in their discography for me. And in my opinion, many of the issues that I have with Humanure are amplified here, but it still ranks higher. Next up, we are coming in with another surprise with the 2002 release, To Serve Man. Comparatively speaking, with Humanure, I believe that this is their second best pure deathgrind release. No technicality necessary, the drums are grisly, they are humongous, the vocals are slurpy and runny, the sound is chaotic and unrelenting, and you might wonder why it's not higher if I'm praising it so much. That's in part to the top 5 just being really good in their own right, but also because To Serve Man is not without its flaws. It's certainly superficial by their own standards. The grindcore bits are by far the best parts of To Serve Man. They were really dabbling in this low death metal type riffage that they would experiment with on various tracks, and I think those are the most one-note parts on the record. I do think these tracks are the perfect length for deathgrind though, not too short, not too long. And after I discussed discovered this record, I dug into it quite a bit. This is one of the releases that really got me into Cattle Decapitation when I started getting into Cattle Decapitation, and while I do believe it has dulled in the years, and that is mostly because them outdoing and outclassing themselves, not to mention just the general power creep of their own sound, which is a good thing, boasting a sound that was vile and uncompromising in every sense of the words. Now we get into the top 5. These are the records that I just think are super positive, I feel very positively about, but this still might be a little bit jarring to some diehard fans because of some hot takes that I have about their discography, so let's get right into it. For most fans, this record's in the top 3. For me, it's at number 5. I'm talking about the 2009 release, The Harvest Floor. Harvest Floor, simply put, is the turning point, the revolution, the renaissance era of the band between 2006 and 2009 when they found a brand new drummer and began dabbling in a brand new style that they hadn't really messed with too much prior, that being technical death metal. This, combined with the newfound production styles that Billy Anderson, who mixed their prior release, Karma Bloody Karma, was implementing into their sound, whether it be the large reverbed out vocals that would just go back into the background over and over, the way the shrieks were being layered with the growls, he was really pushing Cattle Decapitation sound to its limits. Harvest Floor also discovered even more lyrical elements that dealt with the misanthropy that would become something that was super evident in all of their releases subsequently, tackling a multitude of humanistic topics in the scope of ire and rage, the occasional sample lace through, the occasional new elements that were being implemented into their sound in spades, and the new percussion of Dave McGraw, who nowadays I do prefer the percussion of to prior records. Complaint-wise, I think the only reason that number 4 edges this record out is just the memorability factor. For its time, Harvest Floor was very unique, very flavorful by the band's standards, but not for the genre. But people making this record out to be all that in a bag of chips are lying to themselves, because Deathgrind has been mixed with tech death for a while. The bass gets drowned out quite a bit, the double bass doesn't slap nearly as hard as it does on Karma Bloody Karma, or especially later releases. I don't really like the way these shrieks are layered with the growls. It makes them sound muffled, it makes them sound muddied, and I really do not enjoy the overusage of this reverb effect where they'll make a growl or a shriek just go out. They still use that to this day, but it's just done better. These are just multiple nitpicks that I have that I think are important to really present why this record's here and not higher and not lower. It's a record that I do enjoy, that I do go back to a lot. Hell, I own it. I think it's a fantastic record in their discography and a major turning point that is important to the enjoyment of the band. Number 4. Speaking of Karma Bloody Karma, that's number 4. For me, the topic, the sound, the vocals, the compositions, the drums, the riffs are some of the most heated of any Cattle Decapitation early record, and I think this is the best of their 2000s material. Holy shit, Michael Laughlin was at the peak of his drum work on Karma Bloody Karma, with bustling percussion that was just as destructive as it was diverse at the time. Some of the shrill, piercing screams that Travis was doing more and more on this record are just straight shots of noise. They're nasty. The concept, the artwork, the background of this record fit in really snugly with the general lyrical themes that Cattle Decapitation likes to take twists and turns to implement. The refrains on various tracks, the melodies that are very subtly placed on certain tracks are just breathtaking, and Unintelligent Design and Alone at the Landfill still remain to be 2 of my favorite Cattle Decapitation tracks, period. Karma Bloody Karma is like a well-defined beast. All of the death grind and gore grind and grindcore and technical elements that was laced periodically throughout prior records are just littered here so precisely. It's musical lunacy, torturesome, straight deranged, and as I said, remains to be the best of their 2000s material in my eyes. People say that Harvest Floor was the first inclusion of technicality, melody, harmony, progression. I don't think that they're paying enough attention to Karma Bloody Karma. I think it's better in every sense of the word. Oh, holy shit, where to begin? Before you start typing, let me explain myself. This is the number 1 or number 2 on a lot of people's lists, with good reason, but just don't come at my throat, please. Monolith's progression from Harvest Floor is like night and day. Cattle Decapitation as a 2000s band and as a 2010s band is so fucking different that it's insane to behold. The amount that they have changed and did change on this record compared to their 2000s output is insane. More heavy, louder, cleaner production. More technicality, more little micro progressions. A larger variety of vocals, a snare that bashes the most unbrittle of bones, and a double bass that roars out like a damn lion. Monolith is still their most chaotic record to this day. BPM is pushed to the limits when Dave McGraw, the bastard, plays like a damn mongrel. He's an octopus. I think the top 3 records in their discography really do come down to personal preference above all else. Monolith really was the point where all of their ideas previously implemented were coming to full fruition. The grandiose, lavish bits that would later become a staple on subsequent releases were really being well developed here. That being said, I think the higher sung, shrieked vocals, anyone that's heard the band will understand what I mean, on their later records, are some of the weakest here. A living, breathing piece of defecating meat, and the track Livestalker, I believe it's called, do one thing that they don't do on other releases: come off corny. But it also does have some great moments like Your Disposal. I get what they were going for entirely, but I more so see Monolith nowadays as the stepping stone. With that being said, Monolith is still going to pretty much eternally have a spot in the top 3 of their canon. I don't really see a reason why that would change, solely because it is one of the most diverse and dynamic and technically proficient Deathgrind releases to ever come out, as well as one of the most gruesome and multi-phased. Whew. I am a staunch advocate for this record, so much so that between it and the #1 spot, it was a massive crossroads. Many of the arguments I've had and many of the rants I've gone on in defense of this record for people that don't particularly like it or just have dumb reasons for not liking it. I would even go so far as to say that I think this record and #1's share an equal spot. Death Atlas is apocalyptic. It truly is the end of the world. The lyricism reaches a world-ending fever pitch. The already iconic, in my opinion, artwork of a skeleton with a scythe, seemingly death, shouldering a infernus image of Earth. This record is so fucking cataclysmic. And I prefer the higher sung vocals on this record to any other Cattle Decap record. It's frigid with melody, ice cold in the progressions, and I think this is the type of record that you can only make after your lyricism and your content have surrounded one thing pretty much solely for so long. It is the culmination of the state of our world and the long-term progression of said world seen through the lens of pure rage and pure misanthropy at the human race, resulting in the boys crafting a consistently jaw-breaking, genre-defining, boundary-pushing record. Some of their flashiest riffage, cleanest production, most ravaging riffs, some of their most complex assortments of grit and pure tenacity. Travis continues to push the limits of his own vocal range, constantly evolving. Some of their best refrains, sticky lines of poeticism, some of their best melody, some of their best harmony. Death Atlas is truly one of the most killer extreme records of the 2010s and perfectly encapsulated the entire decade leading up to that point right at the end of it. It really is poetic, huh? And here we are. This is my favorite Cattle Decapitation record, point blank. At this point, I think explaining or trying to praise their 2015 record, The Anthropocene Extinction, is like a broken record. I've sung many praises of this record, and I will continue to do so. This was the very first record of theirs that I actually wanted to own on physical copy. It had me extremely thrilled, it had me horrified, it had me intrigued, and developed them being one of my favorite extreme bands, period. Chilling, eerie, punishing, headbang worthy. Their best lyricism, period, bar none. Topical, deeply cutting lyrics that just are put so poignantly blunt it hurts. They are clever, they are sharp, they're at the top of their damn grade. And while I do think the shrill sung vocals are better on Death Atlas, I think the general layering on Anthropocene is better than any other record. Anthropocene is a celebration, and it's already regarded as a classic by many for very good reason. No record since its release has impacted me the same way, surprised me the same, had the same amount of impact and rage and ferocity towards the human race and what we have done. This is a thinking man's Deathgrind record, if you will, and the best in their discography. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. What are your favorite Cattle Decapitation records? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear it. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is J Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.